They all love their mothers. That's a typical thing. They love their mothers. When you start talking about fathers, it goes right out the window. And so what happens when they have kids? Same thing. Same thing. You know, and they're not around, they're dead, they're incarcerated, whatever. But what they're chasing is the money, because the perception is the money is going to fix everything that's wrong. When in fact, what would fix everything that is wrong is that if we get family like we were supposed to, because that's when we were created to do it that way. All right, so we'll stop there and come back and knock this out. This might be the best chapter. Anybody?
Oh, before I went on my cruise for the day.
Oh, that's right.
I'm gonna have to leave right at 8 because Keegan starts school.
What? That's so stupid. Why they come on Thursday?
Was that my last?
Well, I guess that's not too bad because then you just get in and do food for stuff and then go and do work on Monday. I don't know why I thought you had, you know, the kind of crochet that is out of the, yeah, I thought that's what your hair was like. I didn't realize
No,
it
it's
was.
a sewing.
Oh,
This is the only thing, because I'm trying to let my hair go back.
oh, that's
So
hard.
this is the only thing to cover it until.
But it's cute. Guess I'm watching the end of the movie. You're not eating, oh, you got
I ate
it.
already.
Oh, you already ate it?
I just ate some green beans and she got chicken express.
Oh, I probably eat some green
Might
beans
not
too.
eat no green beans. I didn't eat no roll or nothing. Is that Keenan? Is that Keenan?
Huh?
Who's one?
Chloe, I don't
Oh,
know.
not Keenan. Thank you.
Y'all going to jail.
Who?
All y'all that's been traveling, y'all going to jail.
I'm not going to jail because she didn't know how to do her job.
And be like, Nicole, we need to see you.
Okay.
It's gonna be a policeman
I
standing
guess
there.
that's where I need to be.
It's gonna be a policeman standing there with a tie on.
That's where I got to go. That's where I need to go. Yeah, I'm y'all going to jail. About 2.
Oh, okay.
What did you do?
It look too much like his mama.
He flipped the table over. Why? It make no sense to me. His friend was talking about it, so she told his friends to move to another table, and he got mad that she told him to move. And any other time somebody picking on me, mad because she don't do nothing to him. So I don't ask him to explain it, it don't make no sense to me.
So we gotta whoop him. You told me you ain't get no whooping, cause you told out your boo-boo baby.
No, that wasn't today. I didn't get a movement today.
But it's still so from the whooping you got the other day. I said the other day.
This chapter is very odd. This is a conversation
we're talking about like the work that we do and how we're seeking for costs, for lower costs to get richer and all of this other, but now it makes sense. Cause I always thought that if we wouldn't chase or wouldn't care about it, it would go away, but it's not gonna go away.
Can you go watch movies?
No. It will not go away. Oh, okay. Yes, sir. You have a question?
Oh, no, concerning my age. I'm talking to myself.
Did you answer yourself?
You said what?
Did you answer yourself? Huh? You did?
Yeah.
Mm.
You know what that means?
My mother is, that's who she is, transracial down to.
So you saying your mama crazy?
Just a little bit, then plus my dad doesn't help at all, so
Both crazy.
both their brains, so
I see.
crazy.
I always want to ask somebody that talks to themselves and answers themselves. Did you know what you were going to answer before you did?
No, I did not have time.
Oh, you're crazy.
I don't care. That's the same thing that you get irritated about it.
All right, let's jump back in. So when we left off, we were just going over this 18th chapter of Revelation as far as the significance of verse 4 and the whole aspect of come out of her, talking about come out of this Babylonian system and how it was directed at them, but I think it has meaning for us today. When you think about the system that we have in place, and the last thing I talked about was the whole aspect that we have psychologists now, and we don't have enough. It seems the more technology we get, the more materialistic we get, the more our minds are dumbed down and warped and messed up, and we can't cope, and the more isolation, and then we end up with gangs and with all the way to mass shootings and so forth. And you look at the profiles of these people, and they're living in isolation for the most part, and that isolation creates a vacuum that is infiltrated with chapter 17. That's the false religion, that's the philosophy, that's the bad thinking. Chapter 18 is the engine that allows for false religion, because the engine is the chasing of money. Because when you're off chasing money, and as I said, I think everyone in here is probably pretty much in some sense guilty of this. And there's no getting around it, I'm including myself. You go off and chase money and you forget some of the more important things in life, and we basically say the more money I get, the better I'm gonna make it for my kids, the better I'm gonna make it for me, the better I'm gonna make it for, and what ends up happening though, anybody that has advanced anywhere in your career, usually you find out the more money you make, the more responsibility you'll have, and the more you get taken away from those other things. That's what normally happens. Another proof that this Babylonian system is alive and well and thriving, think about pop culture for a second. By the way, does anybody know what POP stands for? Popular. What's popular? So, pop culture, when you think pop culture, what do you think of? Yeah, you think of Beyonce, what else? Fashion, Kardashians, that type of stuff. Reality shows, those things. Here's what's funny about it. We actually, I'm not saying you as an individual, but I'm saying we as a collective are more interested in what's going on with Beyonce or Cardi B or Nicki Minaj or the Kardashians or whomever, anybody that has money. when you go online and you type in a name, one of the first things that will pop up is net worth. You can go check their net, somebody is actually going out to figure out their net worth.
How do they do it? Just like
Public records, that public records, understanding if, so say for instance, Beyonce. Understanding that if Beyonce's concerts cost X amount of dollars and her contract says she gets X amount of dollars, you figure she does this many contracts, you know she has this many downloads, you know she's involved in this many businesses, and you can get a good ballpark. I mean, a real smart analyst can come up and probably be within 5% of what she makes every year. Then you throw in who's doing her taxes. You probably know how much she pays in taxes, you pretty much know how much she took home. Be done. But think about it, that's a whole lot of effort just to find out how, you know, it ought to be, who cares? You know, who cares how much money she makes? But we rank them. Yes, we rank them, and we look, and we see who. And think about what that creates, though. It creates a false sense for younger people of, this is what I'm going to go do. I'm gonna go be that. Why?
Popularity.
As I explained to my daughter when she was 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, 11, and 12, and 13, and I hope she's starting to get it now. I said, think about this for a second. When you have that much popularity, do you think there's any pressure on you? Paparazzi would drive me batty. I can't go anywhere. They popping up out of bushes. I imagine if I use the public restroom, one to pop up in the toilet next to me with a camera, and there I'd be on TMZ. Oh, Kevin Harris was caught using a public toilet. Did he put something on the toilet seat? Well, we can't tell. You know, I mean, people would look at that and they would be concerned with that. And you'll notice what paparazzi's trying to do is catch them doing something wrong. Finger up their nose, anything, whatever it is. Let's just catch them doing something wrong, and that's a lot of pressure. But here's the flip side of it is, we're trading in gossip. We love it. We want to know. Boy, let Kanye and Kim have a fight.
They'll call the paparazzi before the fight.
Then have a fight for the paparazzi. Yeah. I mean, when Jay-Z was on the elevator, and Solange lost her mind, and the fight. Y'all remember that few years ago? Oh, you didn't know. See, there's somebody that doesn't care. It was all over. It was on everything but regular news. Anything else you turned on, yeah, it was there. And people wanted to see it. People wanted to see it. That tells you that Babylon is alive and well. We are commercially driven in so many ways. We celebrate excess. We celebrate excess. And that's what Babylon is in chapter 18. From a commercial perspective, that is what Babylon is. Now, here's the other side of this. Do you think it seeps into politics?
Yes. Seeps.
Right. So the government itself, all right, in chapter 17, the harlot was sitting on, basically meaning that the false religion was influencing everything. In 18, what you have now here is that she is being pictured as the commercial entity, so that means she's influencing from a commercial perspective. So when you look at politics, it's two things politics always talking about: money and religion. You think about it. That's what it is. Oh, God-fearing people. It's funny, God-fearing means whomever is giving them money. Right? I'm terribly upset with evangelicals at this point in time, because I'm one. But I'm terribly upset with the same people who had such biblical moral principles. Money, give us what we want. Make things like we want them, and we'll support you no matter what. So that shows you that 17, that false religion, and here in 18, it's the money thing. You've got this trifecta working, and this is where God is saying, if man wants to understand why I have judgment on man, why I'm so upset with man, this is why. Because you've taken everything that I've told you and you've turned it and twisted it in false religion, and then you built up this whole commercial aspect of things, and that's driving your behavior as well. Because if you look at it, in God's original creation, what do you see? In the garden,
Just nature and animals.
Happiness,
peace, happiness,
everybody getting along.
and you know, I like to say Adam was given a job, but when you read it in Hebrew, God told Adam, go till. That's what you see in your New King James. Till literally means watch. It means, look at it. You ain't got to get no weeds. You ain't got to do no planting. You ain't got to do nothing. Your job is to walk around and watch stuff. Watch it grow. Oh, by the way, here, I'll give you another job. Name the animals. By the way, if you name them, Adam, see, when you name something, you show possession of it. So by naming the animals, you show possession. You show that you were superior. And now you've named everything and you're walking around watching everything grow. And you know what God is saying? I've provided everything that you need. In fact, if you want to eat, here's all of these trees. Eat from all of them but that one. Just don't eat from that one, eat from all of the others. So when you look at original creation, man's relationship to God was one where God was the provider. And you know what man was? The receiver. God was doing everything for man. When you look at the fall, the whole fall was conditioned upon twisting God's word, there's your false religion, and then putting man on a different perspective altogether, because now God says, since you rejected what I had for you there, now in order for you to eat, you're going to have to do it by working. And if man lived within the curse that God had put upon the earth, then what man would do is simply work for his food. But man is not working for food anymore. Man, nobody's working for you. No, yeah, we're working for excesses, right? And it makes sense that Paul says, I've learned, this is what he says over in Philippians, I believe, I've learned in whatever state I'm in, whether I have a lot or whether I don't have much, I've learned to be content with what I have. Because contentment is godliness. But man says contentment with gain. If I'm gaining, then I can be content. If I'm stacking it up, then I can be content. So, now, verse 9. So we see here, let's go to verse 8. Therefore her plagues will come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she will be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judges her. So, notice that one day. That one day, if you go back in Ezekiel, the 28th chapter, you'll see this. You'll see it in Isaiah, the 13th or 19th chapter. Talks about Babylon. If you go back and you remember what was going on in Daniel, I think in chapter 5, in Daniel, they were sitting there, they were eating and drinking and just having a really good time, and the Medo-Persians came up and took over, just like that. It happened in one day. While they thought they were, in other words, Babylon, the system, has a false sense of security. Think about this for a second. Diamonds. Yeah, I got my diamond girl here. And another one. There's two of y'all, isn't it? Diamonds. They're worth anything?
Yes.
Because of that.
Now
It takes a billion years to mine.
They're rare. It takes 1 billion years to mine them. A diamond is a what?
Rock.
A rock.
It's not
It came from a what?
Coal.
From coal, piece of coal, right? It's a rock. Who made that diamond expensive? Man. It's artificial. Because if you don't have diamonds, do you die?
No.
If you don't have food,
Yes.
food is actually more than diamonds. But we've made diamonds and gold all precious stones. We made them precious. In fact, in the 70s, what was the best-selling stones and the best-selling stone in the 70s? Anybody know? Best-selling here in America.
I don't know. Sapphire or something.
You're close.
Emerald?
No, it was blue.
It was a sapphire.
It was an aqua blue. Yes, and people wore them. I remember as a kid, because I used to have a choker. I used to have a choker. My mom put a choker on my neck, and my dad had stuff on his, he had it here, and everywhere you went, everybody had it, just like they had bell bottoms.
You talking about turquoise?
Turquoise. Turquoise was you had to have turquoise. I don't remember my mother screaming about a diamond. She wanted turquoise. It wasn't necessarily expensive, but that's what everybody wore. We took a rock and said, there it is, and we ascribed value to it. It's still a rock. Clothes, yes, there's value to clothes. All you gotta do is walk out in the wintertime, and clothes have value.
Yeah.
A diamond ain't never kept nobody warm, right? All you can do with a diamond is look at it. It's sparkly.
Keep it up front, it's popping
I know. That's what I was about to say. You go get something fake, it might even look better. Yeah. So we're ascribing value to this stuff. If we're ascribing value to it, that's why I was talking about the dollar on last time. I can have a thing, my wallet has these papers in it. It's papers.
If it's worth it, I'll take it.
It is.
I'll take it, it ain't worth it.
It is absolutely worthless.
That's happened before, people's currencies have been.
Yes.
sold.
All they have to do is devalue it.
Yeah, it's happened.
And you know what? I'll show you. It actually happened in the 70s when they went from gold to silver. They took us off the gold standard, went to a silver standard for a moment. The value of this dropped ridiculously. It was like the dumbest thing in the world to do, and they immediately corrected it. But the money in your pocket is only worth what the government says it's worth. Yes.
So do you think, the system fights extremely hard to keep up all of these
Oh yeah.
values? Like, the reason with like the stock prices and the bond
Oh,
prices
yeah.
and, because they have to keep the value of what they value at that certain level.
Oh no, absolutely. The stock market is one of the biggest jokes in the world. Amazon is not worth that much money. It's not. At the end of the day, when you look at how much Amazon actually sells and how much profit they actually make, how could they be worth 20 times their profit? That's impossible. But you know who says they're worth that much? Those of us that are putting money into them. Right? We built them up. So all that has to happen, and you think about it, we invest a bunch of money in something, all that has to happen is some technological breakthrough. People were putting their money into buggy whips.
What?
You know what a buggy whip is?
Oh.
Yeah, back in the day, you had a horse-drawn carriage and you had a buggy whip. And there were buggy whip companies. And people were like, that's a good business. And it was, because the buggy whips would break after a while. It was hard to get a good buggy whip. They were expensive. Here comes Henry Ford. What happened to the buggy whip business?
Cars.
Cars came along. Boom, it went away. It went away. And it can happen like that. So this system is basically built upon a lie. The lie is this stuff is valuable. And man says, yeah, great, I'll play Monopoly. Who in here liked Monopoly? You played it and had fun with it. While you were playing, for just an instant, didn't it feel like that was, like it was real? Like you got serious with it. Like I'm gonna rule the board. Think about it. Boardwalk and Park Place.
Oh, yeah.
They're sitting there next to, when you turn the corner, Mediterranean and whatever the other one was. Worthless. $50, $400 just to buy the land. Turn the corner, this is worthless. I couldn't see any difference between the two though on the board. Who made that one more expensive than the other? The people that ruled the rule said it was more. And when you stop and think about it, that's what we've done in life. We're making things worth something, and God is saying, you've done this to yourselves, but what it's leading you to do then is you're worshiping it. How do you show worship to something? Time. Why would you give it time?
You gotta keep it up, that's what you care about.
It's what you care about. So
Time is what you care about.
it has value. If it has value to you, you give it time, you obey it, you do what you can for it. Can y'all see where we are worshiping? Right? We worship things. So she has basically said, I'll never be a widow, ain't nothing ever gonna happen to me. And then verse 8 says, now the plagues are coming. Verse 9, the kings of the earth who committed fornication and lived luxuriously with her will weep and lament for her when they see the smoke of her burning, standing at a distance for fear of her torment, saying, alas, alas, the great city Babylon, the mighty city, for in 1 hour your judgment has come. Let me see if you're up on your stuff. What happened in 1929? I would ask again. I don't know if they played this game with me when I was in the 9th grade. And we played the stock market game in order to understand it. And it was a lot of fun, but what we didn't realize is my history teacher had set it up, so it was 1928. And we did exactly what they were doing in 1928. We were borrowing money like crazy to invest in stock because it was making more money for us. Now, I cheated. I say I cheated, I didn't cheat. I'd already heard of the stock market crash in 1929. And I already kind of knew what would happen. So as things got totally out of hand, I came into class one day and sold everything I had. And the teacher looked at me and said, why are you doing that? And I looked at her and said, because this thing's gonna crash. She said, shh. And the next day, the stock market crashed. And when the stock market crashed, you had a bunch of 9th graders, 2 of them, I never forget, one of them was a real good friend of mine, started crying. This was a game. It was just a game.
Was it Bobby?
No. It wasn't Bobby Brown's guy, Warren, and Warren's a preacher now. Yeah. One of my good friends that play football and stuff. But yeah, Warren started crying because in Warren's mind, he was making all this money. And you know, even in fantasy land, he was looking at all the stuff he could do and all the stuff he could get. He had been talking about when he grew up, he was gonna do this, do the stock market thing. That thing crashed, and then we studied the stock market. When in 1929, when the stock market crashed, people jumped out of windows. Think about that for a second. The stock market crashed, and they went, it's over. I'm done. When we had this crash, 2006, 2008, you had the same thing. You had people killing themselves. When IBM, when I was working for IBM and we went to Las Vegas and had a meeting and 3 people committed suicide because they took the family savings and lost them gambling. We had 3 people commit suicide.
They work for IBM?
Yeah, it was about 800 of us there. They weren't the only ones that lost. I mean, there was, so the next year, the next time we went to Vegas, they gave us these badges that we had to wear that were on an RFID system that tracked. If you went into the casino, you were fired. Managers would walk through the casino. If they caught their workers in the casino, you got fired.
Even just walking through someone else, you have to get
Yeah, well, yeah. It was if you got caught gambling, but they would track your movements, and if you were in the casino for 15 minutes, you didn't need to leave. It meant you were gambling. I mean, they warned everybody, you will be fired.
This is the same trip?
No, the next time we went.
No, I'm saying on that same trip, 3 people?
Yes,
at
same
the
trip.
hotel.
We were in Caesars, I think. I think we took up almost all of Caesars or something. Yeah, yes, killed themselves. They lost the family money and they killed themselves.
I remember
Value,
seeing
one
this.
and more.
I I remember seeing a story about a man who had lost his family's money and he killed himself. And his wife didn't work, and so she went into bankruptcy, you know, had to start working. They struggled for years and years. Later on, they found that man, and he had faked his death. He told his wife, it was on the news, he told his wife, you know, they were gonna take everything, they were gonna do this. She was like, they did. You just weren't there. You didn't experience it. And I was like, how could you to your family, your wife, your children, just say, you know what, I'm done?
Desperation out of, that type of thing, yes.
When we were in Atlanta, we met with one of our borrowers who got into a really bad car accident. Like it messed up her hip. She had to have a hip replacement and 2 more surgeries after that. And it wasn't her fault that she got into the accident. And the attorney had taken the money from her case and several other cases of the winners, and I guess invested it offshore or whatever, and then killed himself after he did it. But he made sure that his family was okay with the proceedings from everybody's winnings for the cases, but then killed himself. And like now our bar is just stuck trying to make ends meet because of somebody else's.
And the thing, and this goes back to Paul saying, whatever you have with that, be content. Just be content. By the way, if you are content, you can actually be happy for other people when good things happen for them. I was reading about Dak Prescott today, and I always like to read the comments on Yahoo because I just like to see how stupid, in my mind, I shouldn't say that, but in my mind, as stupid as I am, I try to see how stupid people can be. So Dak Prescott was offered a $30 million contract extension, and he said no. Now, you got all these people going, he ain't worth it, he ain't worth it, he ain't this, he ain't that, he ain't this, he ain't that. You got some of them going, who does Dak think he is? And I'm sitting here going, so you mean to tell me that anybody that knows, when you get into a contract negotiation, what do you do with the first offer? You turn it down. Why? Because they're gonna give you a minimal offer so that they can come up to where they're actually going to give you the money. I mean, that's just normal. But for him, all of a sudden, he ain't worth it, he ain't this, he ain't that, who does he think he is, blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting there looking at this and I'm like, first of all, why do y'all care? You're not paying. Jerry Jones is paying. This Jerry's money.
Right.
If Jerry want to give him $100 million, that's between him and Jerry.
Wait, who is he?
Dak Prescott. Yeah, that's between him and Jerry. It shouldn't have people angry. How am I gonna get mad because somebody else gets a bunch of money? It'd be different if they took it from me. But the fact that a billionaire wants to pay a football player $35 million, I don't care what it is. You know what? There you go. You both got what you want. You got your football player, and football player, you got your money. That kills me when people start saying, you know, well, these football players, they're just greedy. What do you want them to do? If you offer the money, I mean, if your job came to you and said, hey, by the way, we want to double your salary. No, don't do that. Don't double my salary. No, I'm not worth it. Who in here would do that?
I would ask, how much more work will I
Yeah, you wouldn't even ask that. You just go, yeah, I might want to say, what are my new responsibilities? So let me understand that piece of it. But at the end of the day, if they say, no, we just want to double your salary, just keep doing what you're doing. Okay, I'll take it. Right? I guess it's okay. I mean, what if I'm flipping burgers at McDonald's and the owner, who's a millionaire, comes in and says, I'm gonna pay you $100,000 a year to flip burgers.
I'm gonna be flipping burgers.
Thank you. Happily, right? That's the whole. But here's the thing. Because I don't work. That has nothing to do with me. If I hear about it, good for you. But you know why I can't say good for you? Why people get upset with other people and what they make and this, that, and the other? Because yes, They are coveting. They're not content with what's going on with them. Yes?
So the whole debate about minimum wage and why some people don't want it to increase and why I think it should increase, it was always concerning for me because I always kind of felt like some people thought because of certain jobs other people had, they didn't deserve to make more. And I've heard people say because you get them to a point to where they won't be ambitious and try to do other things in life. And I've had conversations.
Minimum wage rates are the same people that say it's okay for a CEO to make these incredible amounts of money that they make. So my thing is, well, if it's okay for them to make that much money, why wouldn't it be okay for there to be a minimum wage that raises other people up to a certain standard? Well, here again, I go back to this. What do you have against that? And they'll say, because you're telling somebody that has a business to do with their business something that if they want to pay people $2 an hour, if they can get away with it, let them do it. That's the argument. It's like, is it their business or is it not? It's okay for the CEO to make all that money if the CEO decides that he wants to pay his workers peanuts. If that works, you know, if Disney CEO can make, what do you make, $75 million or some amount of money, and you got the workers there cleaning Disney, if they're barely able to make it and they keep working there, people are saying, well, that's on them for working there. They need to go and get better skills. That kind of thing. For me, it goes back to, if I'm content with what I'm doing, if I'm content with what's going on with me, I'm gonna have compassion on other people. I'm gonna esteem others more highly than myself. So I'm gonna look and I'm gonna say, hey, those people really don't make enough money. They should make more. That's gonna be my argument, right? As far as the CEO goes, made $75 million, okay.
And they don't do the work.
But here again, I don't care. You know why I don't care? Because if that's what Disney wants to pay him, fine. But I will care about people that are being forced into a situation where they're working for something that doesn't allow them to live. Because I'm esteeming him, I'm like, that's not fair. It's just like it's fair for him to make all that he can, it should be fair for them to make enough to live on. Right? Now, we live in a capitalistic society, which would say capitalism says pay them whatever they'll work for. The other aspect of that is the crazy thought of, and if you raise this, these businesses are going to go out of business. No, you just put more money in the pockets of people who are buying the stuff in the first place. That's all you did. And money goes like this. Yeah, that's all. And so what you end up with is you go back to the Old Testament. You say, how would God handle this? God showed us how he handles that kind of stuff. When one person is making a whole lot of money on the backs of other people, what God did is every 50 years, Jubilee came up. And when Jubilee came up, the person that made all that money off all those people, and the way they made money back then was land, he gave them back the land. So let's say you and Brian run into a rough times, and you're farmers, and you run into rough times, and I got some money. I buy the farm from you, so you have money to pay your debts and do all of that stuff. Now you work the farm. This is what would happen in the Old Testament. You work the farm, and you pass it on to your kids or whatever, but you work the farm all those years. Well, the crops you're making and selling and all of that, I'm getting the bulk of the money. You're eating, and I'm living quite well. At the end of 50 years, I had to give you back the land. Land will go back to the family. Why do you think God was doing that?
To make everything even.
Yeah, he was just making things fair. He was saying, hey, you're living very well. They are not. Give it back. Is it going to kill you to give it back? No. You've done well. Babylon says, you're doing very well, keep doing very well. At the expense of everybody else, it doesn't matter. They should go get the same skills you got. They had the same opportunities you did. No, they didn't. That's a lie too.
Yeah.
Babylon's system is not equal. It's not equal. It's not. I can prove it right here in the United States. It's not equal. If you go to Harvard, you should go on YouTube and watch a Harvard commencement speech from the students, because their students give them, as well as somebody famous. But almost every Harvard student will come up every year, never fails, and they like to get people of color to do them. They will sit up there and they will start talking about the fact that while we are going out here and we're going to be successful because we've graduated, they literally say, we know we're going to basically make a whole lot of money. Think about it. They're going to school and they're coming out saying, we know we're going to make a whole lot of money because we can't. I'm not talking about, man, I hope I get a job.
We know we're gonna have a lot of it. Yes.
So there is a fundamental difference based on circumstance. That is absolutely true. Real quickly, let's get out of here. All right, so verse 9, the kings on the earth who committed fornication, they're weeping and mourning. Verse 10, standing at a distance for fear of her torment, saying, alas, the great city Babylon, the mighty city, for in 1 hour your judgment has come. And the merchants of the earth weep and mourn over her, for no one buys their merchandise anymore. Merchandise of gold, silver, precious stones, and pearls, fine linen, purple, silk, and scarlet, every kind of citron wood, every kind of object of ivory, every kind of object of most precious wood, bronze, iron, and marble, and cinnamon and incense, fragrant oil and frankincense, wine and oil, fine flour and wheat, cattle, sheep, horses, and chariots. Now this last part, and bodies and souls of men, that's slavery. He named off a whole bunch of stuff just to show you that all of that stuff is actually worthless. All of it is really worthless. The only thing on there that had any worth is the last part. And the bodies of soul of men. Verse 14, the fruit that your soul longed for has gone from you, and all the things which are rich and splendid have gone from you, and you shall find them no more at all. What he's basically saying there is they've now become worthless. And when they become worthless, what you realize is you ain't got nothing. The stuff you've been chasing after, you don't have. Verse 15, the merchants of these things who became rich by her will stand at a distance for fear of her torment, weeping and wailing. Do you know who doesn't get into weeping and mourning and have issues when things go bad financially in the country, whatever the case? Huh? I wasn't thinking so much old people about people that we consider to be poor. They don't have no problem. Here's the funny thing. Who commits suicide in this country?
The rich.
Rich people. You don't hardly ever find nobody poor going to commit suicide. And some people will look at that and go, that's just counterintuitive. I mean, I'd go kill myself if I was poor. That's the problem. You let the money, and if you don't have it, now life ain't worth living. That's what's going on here. Life is no longer worth living. Verse 16, and saying, alas, that great city that was clothed in fine linen, purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold, precious stones. For in 1 hour such great riches come to nothing. Every shipmaster, all who travel by ship, sailors, as many as trade on the sea, stood at the distance and cried out when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what is like the great city? They threw dust on their heads and cried out, weeping and wailing, and saying, alas, alas, the great city, in which all who had ships on the sea became rich by her wealth, for in 1 hour she is made desolate. When she comes crashing down, it will happen fast. Rejoice. Now, that's all the weeping on the earth. Look what happens in heaven, verse 20. Rejoice over her, O heaven, and you, holy apostles and prophets, for God has avenged you on her. Remember, she, in chapter 17, was the one killing the prophets, killing the apostles, and doing all of that. And here, now, rejoicing in heaven, but screaming and weeping and crying out on earth. Verse 21, then a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone and threw it into the sea, saying, thus with violence the great city Babylon shall be thrown down and shall not be found anymore. This goes along with Jeremiah chapter 51, verse 63. He talks about this very thing, that this is how Babylon will happen instantaneously. It will be thrown down like this. Verse 22, the sound of harpists, musicians, flautists, or flutists, and trumpeters shall not be heard in you anymore. No craftsman of any craft shall be found in you anymore, and the sound of a millstone shall not be heard in you anymore. The light of a lamp shall not shine in you anymore, and the voice of the bridegroom and bride shall not be heard in you anymore. All of this, by the way, is life in general and all the merriment, all of that's going to be gone. For your merchants were the great men of the earth, for by your sorcery, y'all see that? All the nations were deceived. Sorcery in the Greek, by the way, is another word for drugs. And in her was found the blood of prophets and saints and of all who were slain on the earth. Again, that's a repeat of Jeremiah chapter 51. So that is the 18th chapter. And the 18th chapter, God has basically said, this is what materialism, I'm judging your materialistic ways. And we need to come out of them. So that is why we try to talk about not being materialistic. So when we get into chapter 19, we'll go from 16 to 19, and we'll get back in chronological order. We'll see the end, because in chapter 20, we see Satan getting put into the pit. And so for 1,000 years, we'll be able to start talking about the millennial kingdom. All right, let's stop there. Prayer request.
How many books are there? I mean, chapters are there?
22.
Oh, okay.
22. Yeah, we do the 1,000 years, we do the final battle, and we look at the great